Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, May 8th, 2025. This is live stream 1186. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, goofing off, messing around a little bit. And then right now I'm just kind of discussing things with the folks in chat once we wrap up the tabletop gaming news of the day. So some days we will actually have a topic. Other days we'll just kind of see what's cooking in the hobby, see what you want to talk about, hanging out in chat. So tonight we're going to discuss the current and possible future pricing of tabletop role-playing game books. We're going to talk a little bit about the discrepancy between different companies and their pricing. What's too much? You know, what price point does a game book reach? And then suddenly it's like, you know what? I'm going to back off on that. It's a little too pricey. So we're going to bounce those things around a wee bit. Now, of course, when you're now watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit GamingGang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you'd like to support the Gaming Gang, we do have a Patreon. You can find that link in the show notes. And be sure to hang with gang over on Discord. There is an invite link to our server also in those show notes. And of course, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. And you must be a subscriber for at least 10 whole minutes. Practically a lifetime for some folks out there these days with their minuscule attention spans. But you got to be a subscriber for at least 10 minutes before you can take part in chat, which is actually a way to keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So joining us tonight, first out the gate, is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Also happens to be one of our chat moderators. Keith Ulu's with us, as is Wallona's Cave, Kevin King, Semper Buffo. Mike is also popping on in. Mike also points out, nice hat, Jeff. Wallona's Cave is making a prediction about game books. Do want to mention, if you are going to be hanging out after the news portion of the show, be sure to keep that comment or, you know, that topic. Keep it on the back burner, because we will get into those things. And I would like you, as someone who is part of the creative process for game books, to chime in with us as well. And of course, I would take a guess the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D just might be lurking in the shadows. Yes, another of our chat moderators keeping the peace. Very nice. Very nice. W Forge is also popping on in to join us in chat. So before we dive on into the news tonight, did want to mention kind of surprising. We saw that we've got an American Pope now. I think there is a message behind that. I really do. Not going to get into it, but I think there really is. Just like there was a message when Pope John Paul II was elected Pope. Yeah, there was some machinations going on, and I think that's the case here too. But if you're a Catholic, I do want to warn you, I don't know how much of a pipeline your new Pope has with the Almighty, the big man, woman, being, whatever, upstairs, because they're a Sox fan. So, yeah, I don't know. See how the White Sox are, right? Zoinks! Yes, he is from Chicago. He was a bishop in Chicago, a cardinal in Chicago, and now he is Pope Leo the 14th. Wow, pretty wild. Yes, Sarah D is with us tonight, and Robert Santon is also popping on in, joining us. Tessie Trek says, White Sox holy blessing now. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's jump on into the news, because I've got a nice eclectic mix for us this evening. Hitting stores in July is the third of a trio of Acheron Games books for the Broncolonia role-playing game. And yes, I've got the lowdown on the Bounty Kingdom Gazetteer. 25 new places, ranging from the mean streets of violent cities to remote and cursed islands in the sea, from forests as old as the world on top of snow-capped peaks to countrysides full of peasant witchcraft, passing through castles, villas, catacombs, and traveling fairs. A sort of tourist guide to a fantasy medieval wild Italy full of adventures and dangers, where the sense of wonder shines around every corner. A crazy roller coaster through fairy tale and grimdark, folk horror and sword and sorcery, from literary to pop. Each location in the Gazetteer includes a general map and other views, diagrams, and illustrations, area by area descriptions, adventure hooks, rumors, and other narrative elements ready to use. It also includes 10 new foodie backgrounds, 20 notable characters and villains, 30 unique items, and 3 new playable races. All the material can be used with all of the other Broncolonia manuals, or you can just import these items into any 5e game setting. From the Crooked Tower of Pisa to the famous Palio of Siena, I'm sure I mispronounced that, from the fiery crater of Vesuvius to the tree of the rampant knights of Calvinian memory, from the immense cathedral city of the Duomo of Milan to the Colosseum, and up to the alleys of Venice and the Tuscan villas. The most well-known, interesting, or peculiar places in Italy, distorted in a fantasy and 5e key. Crazy and reckless trip from which you will never go back. Just have to buy the ticket and go on the grand tour. This 198-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $39 when it lands in July. Now, of course, just like the other 2 books that are going to be arriving this summer, the PDF is already out. You can grab that over at DriveThruRPG for $16. And you will notice, well, maybe you won't notice, one of the pieces of art is being used as our thumbnail tonight. So what I think I'll probably do as far as going forward with our thumbnails for the live shows, I'll try to find something that has to do with an item that I'm doing a news piece on. So there you have that. And of course, we already know Broncolonia is a lot of fun. It is so well done. Strangely enough, though, there is mention of grimdark in the sell sheet info. I would not agree with that. I do not find Broncolonia to be a grimdark sort of setting. Kind of off the wall, little weird, little wacky. Yes. Grimdark, no. No. Keith Lewis says, a cardinal in Chicago, shouldn't he be in St. Louis? There you go. Or Arizona, which I used to get a kick out of when I would talk to, when I lived out in Arizona, really good bar bet that I would, get free drinks on all the time was I would ask the locals out there, how many championships had the Cardinals won? And of course, their answer now and at that time too, none, which was not true. They had won one football championship, and that was when they were in Chicago. I think it was 1946, if I remember correctly. And they won the championship game against the Chicago Bears. Pretty wild. Shanbot B42 is with us, as is Jack Hanks. Mike says, dude, that guy, don't mess with a dude in a 4-foot spoon. I think that's the sorcerer. So, very nice. Very nice. Now available for the Masrita role-playing game is Tiny Fables. Here's the skinny from Ratti Incantati, or Ratti Incantati. I think this is another Italian company, to be honest. A sandbox-style adventure from Mouse Ritter. I know you folks love when I go, Masrita! Dunkov! Set in an old-growth forest warped by fey magic. Echoing the themes of classic folklore and fairy tales, this module confronts players with the why is the piezo popping up? Damn it. Been one of them days. One of those days. There we go. Now I think we will be all right. I think it's all of the correct items showing up. Echoing the themes of classic folklore and fairy tales, this module confronts players with the narrow distinction between warmth and darkness, cruelty and whimsy, and danger versus reward. Those who answer the call to adventure will need to overcome impossible odds. Like, damn it, another one of these coming up from Paizo. I don't get it, kids. Do not get it. Okay, so here's the weird thing, right? So I actually went through and double checked all of these before we went live, and these all came up correctly. It's like, what the hell is going on? Very strange. Hey, it's a live show. These things happen. Michael Burrell is with us as the piezo cannot be stopped. Oh, I don't know about that. Mike says, I need Jeff to leave a voice message greeting on their phone in his Masrita voice. Hello, you've reached Mike. Mike cannot make it to the phone right now. Yeah, now that we're not going to be doing like first looks and stuff like that, I'm going to be a little more silly because that's kind of how I am. I kind of downplay my humor because it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Cubicle 7 Games wants to be associated with such an odd style. But anyway, regardless of the outcome, this is sure to make for a great story. What are you going to find inside? 60 pages, densely packed and illustrated to spark the imagination. 5 adventure sites, each with a map, treasures, encounters, and adventure hooks. An overworld hex map full of minor locations and random encounters to shake up the adventure. Thimblewood Village, a mouse settlement full of NPCs with items to sell and problems in need of solving. Over 40 creatures to encounter, befriend, fight, and escape. Over 70 items, spells, treasures, and conditions to buy, steal, and discover. This module is suitable for characters of any level and for folks new to role-playing games. Although it was designed to be a sandbox campaign, the adventures can easily be used in one-shot sessions or even dropped into existing campaigns. This 60-page softcover zine, I believe this is an A5, with PDF carries an MSRP of $21 and looks pretty impressive once we got rid of the Paizo ink stuff. Now you can actually focus on Tiny Fables as opposed to Pathfinder Treasure Vault Remastered and Tiny Fables. So somebody was asking Pete Strakulich if they're an Aussie. They said, no, I'd love to be, but unfortunately, no. Walonis Cave says it's like the short SS actor in Hogan's Heroes. I got a nice little side note about that. When I was in high school at Lane Tech, we had the actor who played the French prisoner of war. I forget the character's name, and I absolutely forget the actor's name. And he gave a talk. We used to have, because I went to a high school that was huge. I think all in all, at the time, we had about 7,000 students. I went to Lane Tech. And it takes up an entire Chicago city block. Or actually probably a little more than that, really. And Chicago city blocks are big. We're not talking neighborhood blocks. So anyway, so he actually gave a talk to our school, and, we'd have, I think our auditorium set maybe 700, 800 students. And he was actually a survivor of the concentration camps. It was like, wow. And it was kind of funny because he even mentioned how people were kind of curious. They're like, wait a second, how could you be a survivor of the concentration camps and then be a character in a comedy about World War II where you're a prisoner of war in a Nazi prison camp? And it was basically, he needed the work. Pretty well. It was pretty wild. All right. Sean O'Donnell's with us tonight. Good to see Sean. Let's move on to our next news piece. But once again, Tiny Fables looks pretty cool. This looks pretty interesting for Mouse Ritter. There's a new bundle of holding offer, and it features Shadow Dark Adventures from Menagerie Press. And I've got the deets on the deal. Adventure. This all new Menagerie Press Shadow Dark bundle. For some reason, my teleprompter didn't move. It was like, all right, come on, move. This all-new Menagerie Shadow Dark bundle features third-party adventures from, well, you guessed it, Menagerie Press for the Arcane Library's old-school fantasy role-playing game, Shadow Dark. All the adventures in this offer do require the Shadow Dark rulebook, which is not included in this offer. You can download a free quick start, though, from DriveThruRPG if you'd like. Funded in a record-shattering $1.36 million Kickstarter in February 2023, Kelsey Dionne's Shadow Dark role-playing game is what old-school fantasy gaming would look like after an overhaul based on 50 years of innovation. Shadow Dark plays fast and deadly in the old-school revival manner. Its generous third-party license has inspired many designers to publish their own Shadow Dark dungeons and source books, especially William Murakami Brundage, I'm sure I butchered that name, at Menagerie Press. This all-new offer brings you 4 dozen dungeon crawls, large and small, for an unbeatable bargain price. Each adventure is ready to run with minimal preparation. Roll 6-3. I was like, wait, what the hell? Okay, so what they're trying to say is roll 6 3d6 ability scores in order. Pick one of 4 classes. Take your sword and pittance of hit points and start on down that tunnel. But bring plenty of torches, because Shadow Dark torches last 1 hour of real time. For just $19.95, you'll get all 6 titles in the Shadow Dark Menagerie bundle as DRM-free PDFs. Now, these carry a retail value of $85. You're going to receive The Pits of Brund, Celtic Shadows, Rats of Ugol, Ruins of Ardust, Woeful Barrows and Other Places, and Secret of Southwick. These savings will run through May 27th. They look pretty good. Look kind of cool. Kind of have a bit of an animation / anime vibe to the artwork. And no, it is not AI created artwork either, because I wanted to make sure. It certainly did not look like it in the first place, but sometimes things, to my eye, look, oh, yeah, that looks all right. It's like, nope. Matteo is joining us in chat, as is Game Cat and DB. So welcome to you. All right, moving right along. You want to save some more money? Want to hear me say something goofy? You can currently save 30% off official and third-party Nuremberg PDFs over at DriveThruRPG. And that's about all they got to say about the sale. So I'm going to give you the info about the core game book. A doom metal album of a game, a spiked flail to the face, light on rules, heavy everything else. Morgborg, as many people pronounce it incorrectly, is a pitch-black apocalyptic fantasy role-playing game about lost souls and fools seeking redemption. Oh, I didn't realize that I was featured in the game. Forgiveness, or the last remaining riches in a bleak and dying world. Who are you? The tomb robber with silver glittering between cracked fingernails? The mystic who would bend the world's heart away from its inevitable end? Confront power-draining necromancers, skulking skeletal warriors, and backstabbing wickheads, whatever those might be. I don't remember what a wickhead is. Aren't they like addicts? Almost like zombie addicts. It's been a long, long time since I reviewed the Morgborg core rulebook. Wander the valley of the unfortunate undead, the catacombs beneath the Bergen Crypt. Edgar Bergen's Crypt? Oh, sweet Jesus! It's Charlie McCarthy! Run! Or the bedeviled Sarkash Forest. But leave hope behind. The world's cruel fate is sealed, and all your vain, heroic efforts are destined to end in death and dismay. Or are they? Morgborg is a complete game in the OSR genre that can be played as or be picked up apart for use in your own homebrew. It should be played as is. That would have made more sense. The rules are easily made compatible with most of the editions of the world's largest role-playing game. Within the book, you'll find a brief look at the dying world, from two-headed basilisk's Gothic cathedral in Galgenbeck and Blood Countess Anthilia's limestone palace to the fields of death in Graven Tosk and the barren wastes of Kergus. The calendar of Nurturble, that decides the speed of the world's demise. There's 20 occult powers that let you bend reality, and just as many magical catastrophes for when you disastrously fail. Optional rules, which brings more depth to the game. Omens let you turn bad luck into slightly better luck. Classes with unique traits and quirks, and tables that will bring life into your character. There's also 12 creatures to be murdered by. Game Master tools such as tables for corpse plundering, occult treasure, adventure sparks, dungeon generating, and other devilry. The introductory dungeon crawl scenario, Rot Black Sludge, where you investigate a forgotten part of the Shadow King's enormous ruin palace. Cannibal warlocks, poison peddlers from beyond the void, and hungry gut worms await. Once again, keep in mind, you've got the sale 30% off all official, and I would think most third-party releases. So this also includes Cyborg, which I like better than Morkborg, Pirate Borg, which I like the best out of all the board games that I have reviewed. It's excellent. I think it's a blast. The brand new Black Powder and Brimstone from Free League Publishing, which I wonder if I'll actually get a chance to review that book. They send me the PDF. I was like, okay. And usually they do that and then, they ship out the review copies. I don't know. And I know somebody who hangs in chat is a big fan of, Forgotten Psalm? Is that, I just shared an image of it, or Forbidden Psalm? The miniatures game that's kind of built on Morkborg. Very cool. Very cool. So 30% off, pretty good deal. And you've got a little bit more than a week to take advantage of that. Scenes by Nick is with us, as is Chen Su Chu. Yeah, not close. Not even close on that pronunciation. Yes, I am a master of butchering names. Chris Lundgren and Kevin R. Smith are also popping on in. Welcome. And I will take a guess, as has the Madman, that Buddy the Cockatiel is joining us with Chris as well. On our final news piece, because Silent Titans is returning to print, this time by way of Exalted Funeral. I've got the latest. It's an adventure. Silent Titans includes an overland area isolated by mysterious phenomena, a central town, a scattering of settlements, and 5 unique non-Euclidean dungeons. Brave the strange environment, investigate the dungeons, and get treasure, and you can escape. If you are familiar with the general conventions of old school play or light D20 mechanics, you should be able to expand Silent Titans to any main OSR system. But it's also a game. Silent Titans includes the stats, rules, and character generation you need to run it. Using Chris McDowell's Into the Odd system, this is all included in the book itself. The book contains advice on creating encounters, an interview with Chris McDowell about his design goals and creation of the rule set, slimmed down, simple character generation that gives everyone a vivid and engaging character to interpret and play right away, and an opening encounter designed to kick off the adventure and teach the basics of conceptualization and play at the same time. So if you've never played or run a role-playing game before, you can probably run this all on its own. It's also a mystery. The players are thrown immediately into conflict with a twisted antagonist who has stripped from their minds all recall of their mission and purpose. As they discover the world of Werheel and the sleeping titans who make up its strata, they must find out what is going on. Why do wavering dreams from a blizzard of ruined futures poison the air? Why is a medieval world threatened by drone war and extra-dimensional beings? Why does the Marcher Lord in charge of this frontier town own a submachine gun? What are the Titans? Where did they come from? And most importantly, who are the players and why are they here? This 103-page hardcover with PDF is available over at Exalted Funeral. It carries an MSRP of $50. If you want to just grab the PDF, you can do so for $15. And I guess this has been out of print for a while. So now Exalted Funeral is carrying it. Kind of cool, kind of interesting. So if you're a fan of Into the Odd, you might want to take a peek at this. If you are a fan of kind of strange, weird, possibly gonzo adventures, you might want to take a peek. All right. that is it for the news tonight. Of course, talking about DriveThruRPG at certain points, like that 30% off Meatbag that you can take advantage of. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit DriveThruRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, DriveThru Comics, DriveThru Fiction, you get the idea. Please stop by thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale, 5% to be exact. It's not costing you anything out of your pocket. And of course, all of that really goes a long, long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can support us over on Patreon. We have 4 levels of membership to our Patreon. And of course, you can find that link in the show notes. Also, if you want to hang with the gang over on Discord, there is an invite link to our Discord server, also in those show notes. Yes. Do want to give shout outs to those out there who support us on Patreon at the $10 level or higher. We've got Tessie Trekkie, Dan Webb, Tier 2 DM, Game Cat, Pete Stracklich, and Melodic Method. And special tips of the cap to our $25 level members, The Madman and Agile Monk. Thank you very much. Thank you very kindly. So tonight we're going to chat a little bit about the current pricing and the possible future pricing of tabletop role-playing game releases and what is the cutoff point for people. And we're also going to kind of kick around, why do some publishers charge X amount for a certain page count and other publishers charge a far different price for approximately the same page count? So we're going to get into that quite a bit. Funny enough, if we had Stephen from Roll for Combat popping on in, he could also kind of share some thoughts about this, saying he is a publisher. But he's not with us. Womp, womp, womp. Let's see. Pete Stracklich said, I believe everything from Exalted Funeral is not print on demand. No, it is. We've reviewed stuff from Exalted Funeral, and I've got reviews of stuff from Exalted Funeral coming. Land of Eam is a great example. Really, really nice production quality on that. This weekend, I'll have my Monty Python role-playing game review. I know that's not the title, but that's how I'm referring to it because I'm not going to blurt out that really long title every time I mention it. So we have got that. Pete Stracklich is the fan of Forbidden Psalms. It's miniature agnostic, so bring your favorites. Very cool. Chris Lundgren says, Buddy jumped at hearing his name, so you say hello. But hey, buddy, don't be messing with that keyboard. We know you like to mess with the keyboard, so try to behave yourself. Try to behave yourself a little bit. Let's see. Anybody else chiming in? Okay, Scenes by Omnic says they just bought the Land of Eam box set from an Amazon source that was cheaper than Exalted on sale. Decided to buy it now and roll the dice on how things might look next Black Friday. Land of Eam is a blast. Land of Eam is very, very cool. And funny enough, I think I was really surprised that it was, I don't want to say darker than I expected. It's not a silly role-playing game. And I know people have talked about how it's kind of like a mashup of Lord of the Rings and the Muppets. And I guess that's, a simple way of talking about it, but it's like packed with like OSR sensibilities to it, which I love. I thought it was fantastic. So yes, hopefully you enjoyed the hell out of that. Okay. One other thing that I did want to mention is that if you are a member of our Patreon at the $10 level or higher, and you also happen to be on our Discord server, there are certain areas that only you have access to. All members don't get access to all of the channels. One of those channels is the buy, trade, and sell. This weekend, I am going to be sharing some items that I'm going to be selling. I'm going to give you folks first shot. And I'll give you an example. One of the items I'm going to be selling is my copy of Gloomhaven, which is mainly unpunched. So that is going to be something I'll probably like $80, something like that. The big problem with that is the shipping cost. It's probably astronomical because that is one big and heavy box. But some other stuff, some games that have miniatures, some role-playing game books. I'm also kind of kicking around maybe selling off some of the Pathfinder adventure paths that I've got, like the 3-part or 6-part adventure paths, and maybe make like the 3-part APs $35 and 6 parts 70 or 75, something like that. So massive savings. So keep that in mind. Just letting you know, probably Saturday night-ish is when you will see that pop on up. Tessie Trekkie said Exalted Funeral's print quality is pretty top notch. Chris Lundgren says they got the print edition of Gangbusters BX Speakeasy package deal, which I guess the new edition just came out today. Cool. Yes, I know we have the Gangbusters BX, which is being kept alive by a creator out there. So that's kind of cool. I don't know what the deal is with Wizards of the Coast, since they would own that IP, but I don't know. All right. So tonight we are going to chat. And once again, I want your input if you're hanging out in chat about this. But we're going to talk about the pricing of tabletop role-playing game books and possible future pricing of those books. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Over there.
Over where?
Over there.
Over here?
No, over there.
Over there.
The warehouse is in danger, the goodies we must save. All officers report at once, the situation's grave. Go get them, boys. What this thing? The culprits must be stopped. We'll make the scene with our siren, Arizona pop as pop. Ha-ha! The guilty ones are trapped, we've not performed our mission. But the climax isn't kept until we have an intermission.
Hi, I'm Poppin' Fresh, the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Hi.
Out of cookies? Let's make some.
Hey, those are chocolate chip cookies, my favorite.
Now, if you'll do the slicing, we'll do the baking. While they're cooling, let's sing a song. Oh, a house smells so nice when you bake in the oven. A warm kind of smell when you bake in the oven.
Nothing says lovin' like something from the oven.
And Pillsbury says it best. Now for those cookies.
These look good. You're wonderful.
Oh, home-baked chocolate chip cookies, fresh in the dairy case. And Pillsbury says it best.
Hi, time for timer, and time to make a week's supply of healthy after-school snacks. Now have some weekend when it's raining and your mother is complaining 'cause you're hanging around just twiddling your thumbs. Tell your mom that you've been itching to make something in the kitchen, and oh yes, the mess will be a minimum. But the thing that's going to please her is you make it in the freezer, and nothing could be easier to fix. Now just watch as I go through it. Really, all you need to do it is some kind of juice and just a few toothpicks. Okay, now take an empty ice tray and fill it up with orange juice or lemonade or pomegranate juice or whatever turns you on. Then cover the tray with plastic wrap, carefully poke the toothpicks through the plastic, put it in the freezer, and in a few hours, presto, stacks of snacks. Don't wait until it rains before you try this nifty trick. You'll have a fun time making sunshine on a stick.
I've got 5 aces. Can you beat that? I've got a can of Wilkins coffee. Nothing beats Wilkins.
Go, monster, go, go, go. Say now, go, monster, go. Go, monster, go. Oh, ah, go, monster, go.
Go to this theater to see the science fiction picture to end all science fiction pictures. Did he or didn't he? Is he a monster or isn't he? Only his space agency knows for sure, and they won't tell. When the capsule comes down without the astronaut, everyone is on the go, including who or what did come down. Monster a Go-Go. Here's the picture that grabs the screen and shakes it. The picture that makes you wonder if the Earth is coming to an end right in the theater in front of you. Never in your life have you seen such a combination of happy, sad, good, bad, rock'em sock'em action. When you walk out, you wonder what you've seen, because never has there been a motion picture like this. Monster a Go-Go, with a genuine 10-foot-tall monster to give you the whim-whams. Monster a Go-Go, with astronauts and space capsules and pretty girls, and cosmic radiation and pretty girls, and screams and pretty girls. There's something for everyone in the picture they're all talking about, the picture with Go. Monster a Go-Go.
Marcia gets to cut the cookie dough. Marcia gets to bake the cookies. Marcia gets to kiss the Pillsbury Doughboy. Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. Then I had to do it. I had to share the trailer for what many consider to be the worst film, or not even really a film, ever made. Monster a Go-Go. Keith Ulu is giving some folks a little bit of the explanation of what it is. And we're on a Chicago theme tonight, right? So we got a new Pope who's not only American, but from Chicago. And Monster a Go-Go was filmed in Chicago. Yes. Chris Lundgren said, "You sound just like her, Jeff. Good job." Mateo says Tarantino should do a remake of Monster a Go-Go. All right, we got a few more folks popping on into chat. We've got Chris D and Anthony Simeon. I hope that's close to pronunciation. Just taking a stab. Okay, question from Chris D. Any plans on reviewing the Tales of the Valiant starter set? I did reach out to Steamforged Games because, weirdly enough, you know what? I would not be surprised if they've changed the marketing people. I am not getting anything from them news-wise. Nothing. Nothing at all. But yes, I knew it was out. Or not. No, it's not out yet, I don't think. It's on the horizon. But the thing is, it's not from Cobalt Press. If it was from Cobalt Press, yeah, I wouldn't even need to ask them. They just send it. In fact, we were talking last night how Cobalt Press shared my review of The Old Margrave in their like newsletter that they emailed out, which is really appreciated because, you know, when I review something for a company, you'd think if they got a really positive review, they would want to share that. You'd be amazed at how many companies out there is like, it's like, what? So Chris Leonard says he's a Cubs fan, the Pope. No, he's not. He's actually a White Sox fan. Joked about that before you got here. Maybe if you were here on time, Chris. Anthony says they're going to see me at the Page Convention in January. Don't you threaten me. Simeon. Okay, I was close. I see. And funny enough, I was going to go and say it exactly that way. And I thought, oh, I bet you it's not that. Chris Leonard said that's what CNN said. Well, CNN is wrong because they actually spoke to local news, spoke to his family, and they had asked if he was a Cubs fan or a Sox fan, and he is a Sox fan. So I had joked and said that you must not have if you're a Catholic, you might be a little concerned because as a Sox fan, he obviously does not have a great connection with the Almighty. Just a joke. Just a joke. Okay. So Mateo says, oh, so Donald Trump didn't get elected Pope? No, he didn't. No, he did not. And like I said, start of the show, we're not going to go there, but I think there's a message. I think there's a message with an American Pope being elected. It's a message about what's going on in this country. Anyway, so tonight, let's talk a little bit about tabletop role-playing game books, current pricing, what we might see in the future, because, yeah, we got the tariffs, which once again, if you've been hanging out on our Discord, we've been discussing that a little bit. And part of it, you know, companies are like, oh, yeah, we're closing shop. And then they're not closing shop, or they're having a sale and it looks like they're liquidating stock and then they're not. It's because things just keep changing. That from one day to the next, people don't know what exactly is going on. Shazama85 is with us. Says, with tariffs, used and retro stuff is a great option. PDFs also a great option. Talked about this yesterday. Got those two excellent Traveler bundles of holding going on. We've got the Pathfinder Humble Bundle, which is just absolutely jam-packed, and you can get the trio of the remastered core books for what is it? I think it's at the $30 donation. But there's like a $45 donation level that gets you 43 PDFs. So just tons of stuff. W4 just talking about Trump being a Jedi. I saw that with the red lightsaber. I thought that was kind of weird. It's like somebody, well, I know Donald Trump himself didn't make that that image. But you would think somebody who was putting together an image of Donald Trump as a Jedi would know what a red lightsaber represents. Yes. Anthony says higher book prices might finally stop them from spending so much on Kickstarters. Yeah, the tariffs are coming, you know, putting a lot of pressure on publishers out there with their Kickstarters. I'm kind of surprised to see some companies launching their Kickstarters and planning on having those products. Well, they're saying their expected delivery is going to be before the end of the year. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be promising that. So Max Apocalypse is with us. Max Apocalypse says publishers should want to raise the profiles of the outlets that do reviews for their stuff raising the profiles of those outlets and therefore their stuff. Synergy people. Yeah, I know. I do not get it. I talk about this all the time. Paizo Inc., they'll go to the trouble of liking reviews, news pieces, the Paizo preview videos. They will not share them. So if you go and look at the Paizo social media accounts, it's just ad. Well, what's essentially an ad? It's pushing their product, which obviously, I understand that. But they're not alone. And it's sort of like, that's why I know people say all the time, hey, Jeff, how come you're not running a marketing department or the PR department for a game publisher? Nobody's asked. But I'm really shocked because I see a lot of good-sized tabletop gaming companies, not only role-playing game companies, board game companies too. They just don't understand how gamers want to have a sense of community with social media. They don't necessarily want to see you plugging your stuff multiple times a day. It's weird. It's just super, super weird. Anyway, so back to our topic. So once again, keep in mind that that the new news format, our conversations, our chatting after the news is going to be really off the cuff. And I might say, hey, this is the topic tonight. We don't really tackle that topic as much as we could have. But what I was going to say is something that I'm curious about is, and I get it, art is not cheap. Paper is not cheap, especially, if you're looking to have a nice paperweight for your book. The production of books is not cheap, especially if you're going for stitched. I get all that, right? Inks are not cheap. And much of this has to be imported into the United States if it's being printed here. And most game publishers, I know it looks like Chris is talking about the person who does the Gangbusters BX being made in America. But a lot of the books that are made outside the US, without the tariffs, they're actually cheaper, or let's say less expensive, being produced in Europe or China than if they were printed here, for the most part, because they're paying less for the paper, they're paying less for the inks, they're paying less for the machinery required to print these. So what throws me off is when we see publishers who are producing comparable products and the pricing difference that we'll see. Now, I'll give you an example. This just showed up today. I already have the PDF. I've had the PDF for a little while. So this weekend, you will actually get to see the review of the Pendragon Game Master's book. It is the Game Master's Handbook. So it's still in the shrink, just arrived probably about 20 minutes before I headed down here into the Duct Tape Studios. Looks like this is about maybe 300 pages. And we already know that this is going to have a matte finish, because that is the kind of paper quality that we've got with the, well, they called it the core rule book, but it's really the player's handbook. And artwork throughout, more line art than anything else, but the artwork's cool. The artwork's fine. This is looking like, I'm taking a guess, And if somebody wants to go jump on DriveThruRPG, we can probably get a better feel. I'm going to take a guess. This is probably anywhere from about 290 to 320 as far as our page count. And stitched as far as the binding and everything. Looks like we've got 1 or 2 bookmarks in here, which I love seeing that now because that was something that we only saw with books that were produced in Europe. But this carries an MSRP of $49.99. Yes, $49.99. And let's compare that to, I just happen to have this sitting here. I was not, it's not like, ooh, I'm keeping this over here so I can jump on it and pull it out. Because I don't necessarily want to pick on them. Well, let's take a look. We've got the Pathfinder 2nd edition remaster NPC core. This has, I think this is like 220 on its pages. Oh, sorry, a little off. 240. 240 on the page count. Paper stock is much lighter than what we're going to see in the Pendragon Game Master's Handbook. I will say a lot more artwork, a lot more pizzazz with the presentation. Even without showing you this with a first look video, I've read the PDF. I'm just telling you, the artwork here is more impressive, not necessarily just from the artistic standpoint, but just the sheer amount of it compared to it. So I get that, right? $69.99. That's where, and I know because people talk about Mongoose Publishing all the time. I mention it when I do news pieces. And it's like, yeah, it's pricey. And then people will come back and they'll say, well, you know, Mongoose pays a pretty good rate to their artists and freelancers. And they do have probably a little bit more as far as an onboard number of employees. Not as many freelancers, although I can guarantee you they've got freelancers. But are you trying to tell me then that Chaosium Inc. is not paying the going rate to their creators? They're not paying the going rate to artists out there? Trying to say Cubicle 7 Games doesn't? And in my opinion, I think Cubicle 7 Games kind of falls in the middle. So as far as with like Cubicle 7 Games, this I'm going to guess is what, 140? This is a really nice looking book though. So is Mortar and Pistol. Okay, so I was off by 4. It's 144. And I bet you this is what, $34.99 or $39.99. And of course, I am absolutely wrong. It's $44.99. I could have swore this was $34. Oh, you know what? It's 5E. It's 5E Vault, I think, is the company. Yeah, because normally, well, yeah, I guess so. 144 pages, a little bit more. But normally, like if we were looking at a Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay hardcover, and Cubicle 7 Games likes to do 128-page hardcovers. Those are normally $34.99. So, like I said, they kind of keep in mind, page count, quite a bit less than this. So if you doubled the page count and you got to 260 pages or so, yeah, now you're looking at a $70 book. So I get it's not like sort of. So let's see what folks are saying. um, and like I said, I'm not trying to knock the pricing in that. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like, come on, seriously. But I do understand we have companies that you have union members with. You have companies that are, pretty well known for paying top dollar to their talent. So I get all of that. I do understand all of that. It's just what I'm curious is what you as consumers look at when you're making a buying decision. I mean, do you get to a point where it's like, oh no, I can't pay that much for a game book? I think there are people out there who are like that. Let's see. Pete Stracklitz says American-made high-quality bootlegs will be a thing. Could be better than the originals. So Chris Lundgren's talking about, printing up his own stuff. I think he's mentioned that before. DB says, oh, good. Now we can actually play Pendragon. You saw my review. I did like the core rule book, not because I referred to it as a player's handbook. I mentioned that and I liked it. I recommended it, but I said it was misleading. I wonder how many other people out there who reviewed it said something like that, because that was the honest God truth. DB's backing me up. I believe so. So Christy is talking about I think Christy just ordered the Tales of the Valiant starter set. I got to be honest, I would love to see it. I keep kicking around doing a video because I want to bring back the Why You Should Play series, because it's been about a year, maybe even a little more than that, since I did one. And Tales of the Valiant is one of the games that I'm kind of kicking around. And I'm sort of sitting there thinking, yeah, but aren't people just going to come back? Because, you release a video and a lot of times you're going to get some wise ass response. And I have the feeling that a lot of people are just going to be like, yeah, it's just D&D, which it's not. So discussion of Tessie Trikey said, okay, Kevin King says Paizo has to pay union wages now. Yes. Like I said, yeah, I knew that. Tessie Trikey says another consideration for non-Yanks is shipping. I find shipping from Europe is often 1/2 to 1/3 what it is from the US to get a book to Australia. Yeah, wow. Yeah, we've talked about that in chat. The insanity of the shipping charges to get stuff to Australia. Chaosium has an Australian warehouse, which helps. That's cool. Chris Lundgren asks, who do you think has the worst art for their books, but a great game? I'll come back to that. Remind me of that as we wrap up, and I'll try to think of that. Okay, so let's see. Pete Stracklitz says most expensive book they purchased was Lamentation of the Flame Princesses, Veins of the Earth. Well worth it. Nice. Glad you're enjoying that. Chris Lundgren said, Tenkar said the same thing. Chris Lundgren said, well, I'm taking a guess, maybe that's the take on the core rulebook for Pendragon. Although, once again, I'm not sitting there like, oh, there's women knights in it. Oh. Yeah. Do they have to be in your game? No. Like, fucking give it up. Right? Toothless has joined us. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Good to see you again. Cthulhu says RPGs are life. The rest is details. Kevin King says their line falls somewhere between Paizo, which they buy regularly, and some of the Monty Cook products like Invisible Sun. Yeah, that was very, very pricey. And I don't know. I mean, who's playing Invisible Sun? I know they're always releasing more stuff for it. And it did look super interesting and weird. I don't know. But then, and then again, they've also had some bundles for that where you could get the whole shebang for like 40 or 50 bucks. It's like, yeah. Kevin R. Smith said, yep, they were excited for Invisible Sun's Kickstarter and then said, too rich for my blood. Max Apocalypse is hanging with us. Rage bait ranter impression is what we live for. Jeff's rage bait ranter impression. I don't know. I kind of toned those down. So Pete's Record says they just dropped $80 for a mint copy of the Book of Vile Darkness. Isn't that Vampire the Masquerade? So if you love the material and it supports your creative spark, it's worth it. See, that's something else that I've tried to tell people, and this dates way back when we first started the Gaming Gang. We talked about how much value you got out of a board game, if it was a good board game that you enjoyed playing. And it was, let's say it was a $50 game. Back then was, $50 game was a little bit pricey, right? I mean, it wasn't Fantasy Flight Games pricey back around 2010, 2011. But still, a $50 board game. But the thing was, if it was a 4-player game and you spent, let's say, 2-3 hours playing it, maybe you played it a couple of times the first time you played it, enjoyed the hell out of it. You got more out of that than going to the movies. That's what we used to always talk about was, there's no guarantee. I mean, come on, just like reviewers for games who tell you, oh, this is the best worker placement game I have ever played in the last 10 minutes. My goodness, is this good? Until the next person sends me a check to talk about how good their game is. Same goes with movies, TV shows. We see it all the time. So unless you had like a favorite reviewer, which these days you really can't. Well, I guess you could have. But it's not like the old days when it'd be like, okay, well, Roger Ebert and I are usually kind of on the same wavelength. So if he hates that, I don't think I'm going to go spend my money to go see it. Maybe I'll rent it on VHS when it comes out. Or maybe you were like, oh, yeah. What was her name? Was it Jacqueline Kale? Justine Kale? I forget her first name. Who was a real big critic on the West Coast, if I remember correctly. People would be like, oh, yeah, I'm sort of on the same wave. We don't have really that anymore. It's just sort of like, there we go, Pauline Kael. Thank you, Kevin R. Smith. Yeah, I was like, I'm not anywhere near on that name. Rex Reed, I always hated. Never agreed with Rex Reed. And I was like, man, I don't know what movies you're going to see, man. Because he would hate all the movies that were like popular movies. Rex Reed hated. And then he'd be like, oh, this independent film that 4 people have seen. Oh, it's wonderful. His voice wasn't like that, but Mike says, totally, that's almost all game channels. Yeah. Like I said, when I started, I was buying everything until I realized they were saying everything was amazing. Kevin R. Smith says Rex Reed was kind of a jerk. He was also kind of a joke. So DB says Rex Reed was the worst. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge Gene Siskel fan, but I could see his point with some things. It wasn't like, oh, if he likes it, I will hate it. And if he hates it, I will absolutely adore that film. It wasn't like that. That was, to me, that was kind of Rex Reed. Sort of. So, some discussion about Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Yeah, the core rules, solid. I like it for an OSR game. Nowadays it's pretty standard. When it first came out, I think a lot of people were like, oh, well, hey. DB says Siskel was Lord of the Middle, and Siskel loved all but, as far as I remember, I think he loved every single Woody Allen film but one. One. I was like, okay. So, James Mitchell is with us. Welcome. Anyway, so as far as the future of print, and I know this is something that Stephen from Roll for Combat was sort of pushing in chat on, I think it would have been Tuesday, that PDFs are the future, that physical books are going to just simply disappear. I don't agree with him. I do not agree. Now, that's not to say that every single release for a particular game line is going to have a print edition available. But I think as far as like core rule books, the core books of a game, yeah. And I get it. Wizards of the Coast, they're trying to find out how they can go about getting rid of print editions of Dungeons and Dragons. I understand. And I understand the appeal to a corporation like Hasbro that not having to worry about print has. Also, something to keep in mind that I don't think a lot of people bounce around is the fact that, printed books, you can't change this once it's printed. And that's one of the reasons why we see Cubicle 7 Games release stuff about 6 to 8 months before the print edition. We see the PDFs, and then people are pissed off. They're like, I'm not your play tester. I'm not your quality control. And it's like, yeah, but the thing is, you're helping the company out to find things that slipped under their radar. DV says, mind you, Siskel was thumbs up on Escape from New York. Ebert was thumbs down. That is a riddle that still keeps me up at night. GameCat says, zines, man. Zines are the interim future. Yes and no. So I don't think it is that much of a future because it's very hard for retail locations to sell zines. So, but then again, that's another topic for another day. Are we going to start seeing tabletop gaming stores go the way of the dodo? That I don't know. That I do not know, but that's something else. I'm hearing, retail locations talking about, these tariffs are going to just massacre them. I don't know. Michael Burrell says, people complain about playtesters. Look at Baldur's Gate 3. That long playtesting period made for a solid game. GameCat says, retail is dead. Now, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, that really is. People don't care about going to a store anymore. When I was a kid, it was like, oh, yeah. All right. My weekends, usually on Saturdays, I was off to the Sutler's Wagon, going over to the science fiction bookstore that was right there. Sutler's Wagon was the game shop that we went to. There was also Gamers Paradise, which was a chain throughout Chicago. And I was never a window shopper. Normally, women I've dated, in fact, my ex-fiance too, were massive window shoppers. And it was like, but it's a man thing. Men normally, maybe it's changed, but when I was growing up, when I was in my 20s and 30s, men normally are like, okay, I know what I need to pick up, or I know I want to look at a particular thing. I'm going to go to the store. That's what I go and do. And oh, hey, and maybe you see something else, right? And you're like, oh, hey, look at that. So I used to go to this huge mall called Woodfield Mall. In fact, I worked there for a few years as a regional manager. My office was there with the company I was with. But it was pretty funny because it's just a huge mall, and it's really kind of high end mall too. And it's not one of these places where it's like, oh, well, they, like the malls are all closing and going out of business because they don't have any stores. That is not the case with Woodfield. But anyway, we would go there and she'd be like, okay, so I'm going to go to Lane Bryant or I don't know, whatever store. And I'd say, okay. So I would go and I would look at the 3 bookstores and the 2 computer game stores. And they were spread across this huge mall. So it's not like, oh, just right there. And I could do all of that, make my purchases, go check stuff out, and then come back to the same store I left her at an hour and a half later. Be like, okay. Of course, this was before we had like cell phones and stuff like that. And every once in a while, she would find me because she would know what stores I was going to. So every once in a blue moon, she would actually she'd be done before I was finished with my own shopping. But it's like, Chris Leonard says they're shocked in their area book off stores, the amount of dumped 5th edition. Maybe they're dumping 5e because they all picked up 2024. You got to realize a lot of people pick up role-playing games and they think they're one thing, and then it's not what they think. So I would take a wild stab that there are a good number of people who watch Critical Role. And we've mentioned this, and people in chat have mentioned this too, that there's a lot of people who watch Critical Role who don't play role-playing games. It's not just they don't play anything but D&D. They don't even play D&D. So I believe there are a good number of people who went and picked up the core books thinking, oh, hey, we're going to play this. I'm going to run this. And then once they found out what it was and that they couldn't replicate what they were seeing on Critical Role, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll go sell it to secondhand books or whatever. Bexpocalypse says, I know one of their local comic book stores bought out the enormous empty carcass of the used CD store next door. They're using that space to host games. Very nice. Very nice. Kevin R. Smith asks, was she shopping at an anchor store or one of the smaller stores? Like small, like stores. Which, I mean, at this mall, they tended to be large. But they weren't, they weren't anchor stores like Sears or JCPenney's or Macy's or anything like that. They would be like the Gap, maybe a little bit bigger than, say, your local Gap store was back in the day. Kevin R. Smith says they might have to check out half-price books now. Nice way to get some 5e without giving Watsy a dime. W4 says part of their reason to switch to PDFs is the small print in some books. Basic Role Playing by Chaosium had their, oh yeah, see. Okay. You ever notice I never reviewed Basic Role Playing? I did a first look video. I think I did. Pretty sure I did. Did not review it because I disliked it intensely. And it was because of the print size. I was like, are you kidding? It looked that, I don't know if it's still the same edition that's available now. It looked like it was thrown together on the cheap, just in my opinion, which was very unusual because it's Chaosium Inc. But yes, I know exactly what you're saying. That it was like, are you kidding me? It's like, what the hell? But yes, it did not end up getting a review because it would have been a very negative review. And for one, I don't like doing negative reviews. And yeah. Sorry. See, that's one of the things that you can also kind of keep in mind too, is if you see a first look video and it's not like miniatures, right? So you saw the miniatures. What kind of review am I going to do? Right? It's like, here you go. Got to see the mini. There you go. There's not going to be a review. I don't know if that's, maybe Steamforged Games is mad at me because with Epic Encounters, I didn't do reviews of the little 15-page adventure encounter basically that came with it. I didn't think that was the big selling point anyway. I thought the selling point is the miniatures. DB says, guys, get some reading glasses at the pharmacy. Ouch. It's not very nice. I have reading glasses I keep handy in case I need them. Thankfully, I don't have to utilize them very often. But like when I'm going to play games and stuff, I do bring a pair of reading glasses just in case. Elliot always calls them, what does it call them? Cheaters? I think people call them cheaters. And to me, it's like, what's the cheating part of that? I don't get it. All right, so let's wrap up our topic. So if you're hanging out and chatting, if you'd like to share this information, please do. But for you, what is the cutoff point as far as, let's say, a 250-page hardcover book? What price point? And let's say this is something that you're very interested in getting, not where it's like, that looks like that might be interesting. That's something where you're like, yeah, you know what? I'd really like to get this. At what price point do you sit there and go, oh, I can't justify that? I'm just kind of curious. Yes, I know, Chris. Said remind you about the Terrible Art Great Role-Playing Game book and game. Got to realize, sometimes you'll ask questions that it would take a while to come up with the answer. Trying to think of games that I've liked. I just didn't. The artwork, well, I wouldn't say it was terrible art. I didn't like the design style or design philosophy of Pathfinder First Edition. I thought the artwork was too angular. And part of that is, I mean, Wayne Edwards I think that's his name, is a good artist, but his characters always look too angular to me. They don't look natural. And that was sort of the overall dynamic for Pathfinder First Edition art. So, but then, a lot of people, W4 says Wayne Reynolds. So is that what I said? I don't know. Because yes, that is his name. So, but let's see. What can I think of off the top of my head here? Hyperborea. I know some people really like the artwork. Some of it's okay. Some of it's fine. Some of it looks really, really amateur. And the other thing I would say is the third edition did pretty well with the Kickstarter that they did, yet they recycled a ton of artwork from previous editions. And I get it. It was already paid for, fine. But still, some of that really not so great artwork kind of carried over. But the system itself, really solid OSR. Let's see. Anything else I can think of? Yeah, you know what? I guess I'll go with Hyperborea. So, like, I mean, it's not awful. It's not like my eyes are bleeding. Maybe I would say Mirkberg. Although I wouldn't personally say that the game itself is fantastic. Not a fan. I'm not a real fan of the art punk that's out there, especially when it's way, way too much. Like, ew, check this weirdness out. And it's like, where's the fucking game? This is a game book. Where is the game? And maybe it'd be a good idea if I could read the print. Okay. GameCat asks, would I buy a game that was printed like a pulp paperback style to save money if it was a good game? Probably not. Reason being that I don't think the book would hold up to repeated use at the table. So what I would do is I would just go with the PDF. I would bite the bullet, even though I like physical books. Yeah, that would be something where I would go, yeah, I'm just going to stick with the PDF. Okay, so as far as about 250 pages, something that you want, hardcover, Max Apocalypse says $50. Agile Monk says if it's something they really want, probably 75, but maybe closer to 65. Chris Lundgren says 50. Toothless says 100 euros. Chris D says 70. Sean O'Donnell says they'll go up to 50. Mark Hawkswell says they've gotten pretty used to like $50 max per book. They'd bite the bullet, maybe go up to 80 if it was something they really wanted. Yeah, like if it was like the latest edition of a 1-volume role-playing game that you really like. Yeah, I can see that. Agile Monk says they presume it's hardcover with premium color and PDF included. And not every company does that. So let's see. Kevin R. Smith says 75 is probably their limit, $75. So DB says they think Mothership's a great game with art that gives varying mileage. Kevin King says we're talking about art now. They like both Errol Otis and Doug Kovacs. Yeah, I like Doug Kovacs. Errol Otis I can take or, well, I don't want to say it like that. There's some Errol Otis artwork out there that I really like and I think is just absolute classic art. And then there's other stuff I'll see that's sort of like, I guess it's okay. W. Forge says they were never really a big fan of Errol Otis, but appreciated his work. W. Forge asks, did anyone buy The Fall of Magic, the scroll format role-playing game? Not familiar with it. Not familiar with it. Christie says they had to spend a pretty penny to get that Earl Otis Dungeon Crawl Classics rulebook cover. I remember that when that was floating around out there. Some folks are Oh, yeah, Mothership. Some people like Mothership. Other people don't like Mothership's artwork. I thought the artwork was fine. It was okay. I mean, there were some pieces I thought were pretty good. In the, keep in mind, I haven't seen everything that's floating around out there for Mothership. There's a lot of third-party stuff out there too. But as far as the survival manual, isn't that what the core book's called, if I remember correctly? No, I thought it was fine. It looked a little off, to be honest. It was like, but it was okay. As far as Mothership, like it a lot. I talk about this from time to time. Problem people have with it is they don't understand the success and fail. Some people just look at it where it's like, wow, yeah, my success rate is really low for this character. And they're all like that. It's not just, well, I decided I'm going to be this kind of character. And wow, I'm gimped. No, they're all like that. But game masters have to realize that even on a failed roll, there can be success. But with additional complications or something else goes wrong, which I guess maybe wasn't clear enough for people in the rules. I don't know. All righty. So that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Will not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. We'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as this upcoming weekend's review of the Pendragon Game Masters Handbook from Chaosium Inc. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you. Certainly appreciate you not only keeping me company, but each other company. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,200 videos here on the channel. If you'd like to support the Gaming Gang, we do have a Patreon. You can find the link in the show notes. And of course, be sure to hang with the gang over on our Discord server. You will find an invite link also in the show notes. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. I will be back on Tuesday. And as always, I certainly hope every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.